All right, should we go ahead and get started? Good morning, SecretCon, day 2 of SecretCon. My name is Joe Cicero, and I will be presenting Eating the Elephant, Finding and Re-Categorizing 500,000 Phishing Domains. That's my presentation. All right, so my presentation is primarily cybersecurity, but it could be considered privacy. How privacy? Well, this process I run analyzes hundreds of thousands of domains per week, and I do it from my home internet. So my machines at home are communicating to hundreds of thousands of domains, downloading hundreds of thousands of websites, and my actual internet traffic is somewhere in there. So it'd be a great way to just do some disinformation or misinformation. My actual DNS lookups are going to be hidden in all of my research DNS lookups. So there, if you're a privacy advocate, there you go. Some way you can use it to hide your internet traffic. Okay, the presentation was 500,000, but as of June 26th, my automated process has blocked almost 800,000 domains. I was gone for 2 days to the conference, and so I have 160,000 domains when I get home to review. And I'm sure there will be lots to be blocked from that. So I'm sure I'm well over 800,000. All right, lesson learned, don't get cocky. Akamai Research have flagged almost 79 million domains. So, I haven't done 79 million. I need 78 of you to help me out with this so we can get to 79 million. However, I have a lot less resources than Akamai. So you know what my home setup is? I have 2 old Dell T110s. You can buy them on Craigslist for like $50, $100. Both of them have 16 gig of RAM, which is for a server almost nothing nowadays. They're running Linux KVM, so that's free software. That's virtualization software. On Ubuntu, which is free. And they have 6 Kali guests, so that's all free. So if you wanted to set this up, it would cost you the cost of the servers. And I'm just running 2 servers. I used to run these servers in high availability, but I wanted to do even more domains, so I split it up. I said I'd just run them both at the same time. All right, a little bit about my background. I'm a senior security engineer in the healthcare industry, a little over 5 years now. In the past, I was an instructor, so any of you that are instructors, when I was an instructor in the summer, I would do all my research. And the research I would do, I would then bring back into the classroom, and typically in a project fashion. So if you're an instructor, and this would be a great project for you to bring it for your students for a couple of reasons. One is, so I've been doing this for a year. I'm almost at 800,000 blocked domains. Surely you could have your students do this for a month, and they could add on to their resume that a project they performed while in college blocked 10,000, found and blocked 10,000 domains. And if they continued to do it, that would be resume material for them forever, right? They would get to where I'm at, 100,000 or 1 million domains. In the past, I've been a forensic examiner, columnist, network administrator, programmer, technician, help desk. Any Marines in the audience? No Marines? Yeah, we're the few. So a Marine, if you were in the service, thank you for your service. If you're interested in my full profile, you can go to joecicero.com. That will redirect you to my LinkedIn page, and you can read all about me. All right, the presentation background. How did I get to do this? Why did I start doing this research? So in 2023 at Cyphercon, I did a talk called Dragons Can Fly. If you're interested in seeing that, that's out online. It covered methods malicious actors would use to circumvent security layers, and one of those is third-party AITM, or adversary in the middle attacks, that put your users at risk. So I would identify these third-party phishing sites, and then they'd be spoof lookalike domains, and I would have to block them one at a time. And I hand recategorized hundreds, and I'm sure thousands of domains. And it got to the point where I said to myself, this is wrong. I should be able to get ahead of this. I need a method to automate this process. So this presentation is about how I automated that process, and you could all automate the process where you work. All right, so what does that look like, Joe? What did that look like to me? So a user on my network would be going to Commerce Bank, and they would have a typo, and they would come to this page, and they would say, this isn't Commerce Bank, and they may or may not see that they had a typo, and they would send that off to the security team. And we'd look at it and say, it's a spoof lookalike domain, and we would have that one domain recategorized. The first time something happens, it's an anomaly. The second time something happens, it's interesting. The third time it happens, it's a trend. You're going to see it more often, and you need to do something about it. You need to get ahead of it. So I started looking at ways I could get ahead of it. And the way I found was a website called dnstwister.report. This website will take a domain, you stick it in, and it will twist the domain, and then it will tell you all the ones that are registered, and if you look over there on the right, which ones have an MX record. So you can not only block it in your firewall or with your web filter, but you can also go to your email filter and say, I want this blocked there, because that's not really Commerce Bank. And then you can make yourself more secure. And as you can see, this one domain, Commerce Bank, it twisted and found 65 additional domains. Now, 2 of them are actually owned by Commerce Bank, and the other 63 are phishing / typo squatting domains that, in my estimation, should be blocked as phishing. So I could take those 63 domains, and now rather than doing them one at a time, I could do another 63. That's how I got to hundreds or thousands. You might ask, yeah, Joe, but why weren't those domains already blocked as phishing, and what were they categorized as? So one of the things that I would do is I would take those 63 domains and I would stick them into my web filter, and I would say, well, what are they currently categorized as, so I know if they need to be blocked? And if you look up here, the top 2 are the actual authentic domains, and the bottom ones are the fake ones and what they're categorized as. And these are all categorized as financial services low risk. That's like the worst thing. And the research I did and that found out what they were doing is when these malicious, I'm going to call them malicious actors, you can argue with me that whether they are or not, I'm going to call them malicious actors, when they would purchase those domain names, they would do a redirect to the actual domain. So when you would go to Commercy Bank, it would redirect you to Commerce Bank. And what I believe is happening is the web filters are seeing that, seeing it's the authentic Commerce Bank, and then categorizing it as financial services. Then, after they monitor the network traffic to that fictitious domain for a while, when they get a traffic spike, they say, okay, lots of people are making that typo, or lots of people are going to that, and at that point, they can flip it and say, go wherever they want to go. So many of them go to advertising, some of them go to, fake antivirus sites, etc. That's what I believe was going on. Now let's take a look at a real life example that I ran into. Anybody here buy an HP printer? If you buy an HP printer, the directions for that HP printer, number 1 in setting up your HP printer will say, listen carefully, open a browser, go to 123.hp.com. However, if you make the mistake and go to 123hp.com, you will not end up on the appropriate site. And any normal person who sees this might say, oh, I'm installing an HP printer. And they will click the button that says, install HP printer. By the way, if anybody wants to take out their phone and go to 123hp.com, it's still up and running, and there's still fictitious stuff out there. Once you do that, you would be redirected to this geektechies. I'm sure it's in US site, which would bring up a page that says, hi, this is John Bell. I'm sure it's John Bell, from technical support. How can I help you today? Or you can call me at this 1-800 number. Now, the other thing, in fact, when I went to it this morning, it said, type in your phone number, because these 1-800 numbers get blocked all the time. We do it. If we see an 800 number on my network, the telecommunications team gets a call and says, block that number. We don't want anybody calling that. So now, instead of giving you a number to call, they say, tell us your number and we'll give you a call. And if you do that, they'll call you up and they'll say, oh, you're installing your HP printer. Go to this website. And what number is it saying? And then all of a sudden they're taking over your computer, and they'll run this DOS command prompt that throws all kinds of errors, and then they'll say, oh, you have malware on your computer. I need $199 before I help you install your HP printer. How do I know this? Because a relative did it and called me up and said something terribly went wrong. So that's the dangerous side from a regular perspective, a home user perspective, or potentially if you allow people to install printers on your work devices, your work example. Now here's an even worse example. This is a mail in the middle. In 2019, there was an Israeli startup that was looking for some money. And they went to a Chinese venture capitalist and was requesting $1 million. And they had a BEC, a business email compromise. And when the hackers saw this communication, they ended up creating 2 lookalike domains, one that looked like the Chinese capitalist, and one venture capitalist, and one that looked like the Israeli startup. And they started communication to and from between these 2 businesses, and the businesses didn't realize it. So now you have the guy in the middle sending an email to the Israeli startup saying, are you ready for the $1 million? And the Israeli capitalist replying back to the malicious actor, and the malicious actor forwarding that email back to the Chinese venture capitalist, who is sending the bank account numbers to the malicious actor, who's then sending the data back to the Israeli startup. If you want, you can go out there and read the whole article. That's how bad it can be when you have a spoof lookalike domain. And you may say, well, but my filtering software must be stopping this. I'm telling you it's not. Mine doesn't, and just because mine doesn't mean that yours does. And I do a lot of research on the outside to see, well, is there anybody doing this better? So now we have to talk definition. We got to all be on the same page. Phishing domain. My current web filter company has disagreed with me that these are phishing domains. Now they have recategorized. They will only allow me to recategorize them as PUP, or potentially unwanted program. I kind of don't care because I blocked that too. So as long as it's something I block, I'm good with it. But your filter company may say that's not a phishing domain. All right, so let's talk phishing domain. If I'm a malicious actor and I create a phishing domain and then it doesn't work or whatever and I let it lapse and the registrar reclaims that domain, is it now domain parking or is it phishing? In my mind, they're selling it. It could end up out there again. It's phishing. If I know people make typos all the time. Google with a VLE. Google, I've seen that one last week. GOOVLE.com, phishing site. It was being used for a redirect, advertising redirect. Well, is that advertising or is that phishing? In my mind, that's phishing. If you're doing this stuff, it's phishing. So on and on and on and on and on. If you have created a domain that is one character off or looks very similar to a real domain and you are not some real company that actually has that name, then that's phishing in my mind. So now let's talk the filtering life cycle. Because you would say, all right, but all that stuff, that should be blocked by my web filtering software. So I started wondering, why is this not getting caught? Does anybody happen to know, if you're at a business, you might block newly registered domains. It's a best practice to block newly registered domains. Did you look up how long a domain is considered newly registered? What is it? 44 hours for yours. For my company, for the company I use, it's 32 days. So it's different. That's great. I did not know that. 44 hours is like nothing. Newly registered, 44 hours, give me a break. I thought 32 days, that doesn't seem like a lot. But the bad guys know that, and they know, I'll buy this domain, I won't even have it go anywhere for 32 days. Now it's not newly registered, but in my company, it would be considered newly observed. I did not know this. I don't know what the time frame for newly observed is. I sent an email to my filter company. I got to understand this. Is this what it is? I actually said, is this what it is? And he comes back, well, you're on the right track. So I was wrong. The URL will remain on the newly observed category for 30 minutes. 30 minutes? That's nothing. So now you got 32 days and 30 minutes and you're golden. At which time it will be scanned for malicious content. If you have the time, there was a talk at Cyphercon 2023 where a red teamer was talking about how he phished companies, and when he created his phishing site, it would monitor the connecting IP address, and if the connecting IP address was virus total, it would show a benign page. If the connecting IP address was proof point, it would show a benign page. If it was Mimecast, it would show a benign page. But if it was an IP address from the ASN from the company he was being paid to phish, it would show the malicious page. So it looks for malicious content. What are the odds that somebody who really knows what they're doing, a top-notch malicious actor, is not going to do something like that? Like pretty low. So now it's scanned for malicious content, and they say, no malicious content, and then you'll see if there's no malicious content found, the category for the URL will be considered not rated. Do you block not rated? I would love to block not rated. Everything would be blocked. I'd have to have a guy that's all his job is taking care of not rated sites. So these not rated domains will then be queued for review based upon visit counts. Well, if you've just created a site that really nobody's supposed to be going to but some guy that's creating a typo, how long is it going to be before your web filter company is getting to those not rated sites? So what this did is open my eyes to, again, my research is valuable. I really need to be able to do this so that I can let them know I'm checking the domains that my company is touching, and these are all not rated, and they should be categorized as phishing. Important to know. All right, now we're going to get into my presentation, and I got to give an OCD warning, an obsessive computer disorder. Why do I obsess over these? Typo squatting domains never stop. They just keep coming and coming and coming. It's relentless. I block 1,000 and 1,000 more come in, and then I block another 1,000 and 1,000 more come in, and then I get banned because I'm using up too much bandwidth, and then it's Patch Tuesday, and I have to spend time on that, and on and on and on. I need somebody to yell Newman. So if you obsess, I don't recommend you get involved in this because you will just never stop doing it. I had to leave home for 2 days, so I set my servers to do 160,000 domains while I was gone. Like, all right, well, when I get there, they'll be done, and I'll be right where I was if I was home doing 20,000 a day on each server. All right, so let's look at my situation. What was my situation? Company employees access thousands of domains. Each of those domains has hundreds of spoof lookalike typo squatting domains. Each of the spoof domains can be used for phishing or malvertising or ransomware or fake tech support sites write bad. There's no time to review 100,000 plus domains other than automation. So I wanted to look at how am I going to automate this. My needs were, I need a method to identify the domains that are accessed by the company employees. All right, that ought to be pretty simple. I need a method to twist these domains and identify the domains that are registered as spoofed or lookalikes. Okay, figure that one out. I need a method to review the spoof lookalike domains to see if they're blocked or not. So now I've got all the domains, I review the domains. Well, is the company I used to block them blocking them or not? Because then I need to check the ones that aren't. And then when I check those ones, I need a method to send them to my filter company and say, now block all these, I looked at them and they're all bad. So that was the plan. Let's talk about identifying the domains. Well, that's easy. Firewall or DNS report. I started with health and wellness and finance and banking. When I started this process, it was tiny. I said, well, let's just take, I'm in health and wellness, let's just take any health and wellness sites. I know my company is going to be dealing with a lot of health and wellness sites. I'll just take those. So I took this small subset of domains and I started looking at that. As the process got more and more better, I started doing more and more categories until now I could say, just show me everything. So now I'm doing all domains, yes, even those that are blocked. And the purpose for looking for phishing, typo squatting domains for sites that are blocked is a blocked category can still have a typo squatting domain that's allowed. So somebody types this, maybe trying or accidentally going to a blocked site, they have a typo, and now they're at a site I don't want them to be. So I do everything. All right, lesson learned, don't get greedy. So as I showed you in the earlier screenshot, I was using this dnstwister.report site. Well, when I started this process, my first scripts did web scraping. All I was doing was scraping somebody else's data that did all the hard work. And DNS Twister had this beautiful write-up about how hard they worked to get their servers tuned. And in my mind, I thought, I don't want to spend time tuning a server. I'll just use their data. So I did. And I got banned because I used too much of their server. They didn't have anywhere on their website that said you can't do this, just so you know. So I started using the website DNS Twister report. It used to provide the data in flat HTML, and so I just scraped the flat HTML. And then, like a couple of weeks or a month into it, they changed to a JavaScript format, so my script broke. I was like, oh. So I had to rewrite that. And then I was scraping their JavaScript. And then they got to the point where they just blocked me. Like, nope, not allowing it anymore. So in December of 2023, I had to build my own DNS Twist server to accomplish the work. Like a lot of things, it turned out to be the best thing that happened to me. Because now I was in charge, and the speed I could do this was phenomenal. It took 2 weeks to work on it, but it was much faster. So you got to have that. You got to dump them, you got to twist them, and then you got to review those twists. So again, I was a scraper, and the only method I knew to find out what something was categorized as was to use the public site that my web filter company had. Nobody ever said, hey, you don't have to do that. They showed me, this is where you go, because every one of them only ever checked one at a time. So I was like, all right, I'll just scrape that data. So I started using a site, it started scraping the data, the publicly accessible stuff, and then all of a sudden I was getting no data. And I'm watching my script, and like, timeout, 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 domain. Timeout, 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 domain. I was like, oh, they throttled me. So I rewrote my script, I put a little time frame in there, and I throttled it back, and I was able to get the data, and it started working again. And then they throttled me again. I was like, all right, well, I'll just let the script run 24/7, and I'll get the same data. And then they added a CAPTCHA. I was like, all right, they really don't want me doing this. And at that point in time, I did what I should have done in the first place. I contacted the company, and I said, I didn't say I was the guy that did this. If I wanted to look at 100,000 domains and find out what they were categorized as, how would I do that? And they'd say, oh, you're a customer. You just go here and dump the site. In 30 seconds, we'll tell you 100,000 domains. I was like, oh my God, if I had only known that at the front. So now I have this method where I can go and literally upload the domains and in seconds download the file up to 100,000 at a time. It's not like 100,000 a day. I can do 100,000 every minute. And I have all their categories. So it was very nice to be able to figure that out. That made it much faster. So if you're going to do this, contact your web filter company and say, how would I do this? Don't do it like I did it. So now you need a script that needs to download the web page and look at the indicators to see if it's a spoof lookalike typo squatting domain. That's the other need, right? So that's pretty easy. We can download the page and look at it and then recategorize it and get it going. So now I'm going to do the same presentation I just did, only at much more detail. I'm like an instructor. Right? Let's talk about the big picture, and now let's talk about the small picture. So, identifying the domains. I do this through the firewall. I have a report in my firewall, and I say, I want you to dump the last 30 days of domains. And when I do that, the last time I did it, I had 643,992 log entries. Now, what you need to understand is there's lots of repeats in there because of subdomain names and that kind of stuff, miscellaneous. So that can be filtered down. I take that list, I paste it into an Excel spreadsheet I created, and it grabs just the domain name, because that's all I'm interested in, and it uniques the entries. So now I go from 643,000 becomes a manageable 61,466. So that's a month of individual domains on my network. I can then take that information and twist it. All right? So I have 61,000 domains to twist. I need to take that. Now, here's the actual code. So if you downloaded the presentation, you have it, that I run to do that twisting. Now, I have some extra things in here. My presentation says partial code release. I didn't want to give you everything I do. For instance, I have a counter. So like I can grab my phone, I can log in and see where is that DNS twist running. And today one of them was done at 40,000 and one of them's at like 37,500. It'll be done by the time I get home. So another thing I do is at the end of this script, it emails me and says I'm done. So I don't even need to monitor it. Like I'll get an email that says this script is done, and then I can log into my server and start a new batch. All right.
You'll notice that it says, I've got comments up there that'll tell you -R is not recursive. I'm looking for registered domains. -F CSV, dump these domains. Threads 80, this is where the tuning came into play. I had to play around for 2 weeks to tune it. For my servers and my DNS traffic, 80 threads was about what I needed. This is very important. I'm going to have an actual slide just on this. You have to have fast name servers, because all this script is doing is finding out if this server is registered. So you want fast name servers. And then fuzzers, I'm using all of the fuzzers. This is another reason it took 2 weeks. I'm using all of the fuzzers except one. I'm not using homoglyph. Does everybody know what a puny domain is? All right, so a puny domain is a domain that has a look-alike character. So an A that's a Russian A, but it looks like an A, right? So I block all puny domains on my network. So I don't even have to look at puny domains. Now, I also block all kinds of top-level domains, but I block them with my script anyway because I'm updating my web filter company. I'm not doing this just for my company. I'm doing this for every company that uses my web filtering software. Yeah, so it basically, you have a file called domains to twist. On a typical day, I put 4,000 domains in there. And then this script finds all of the typo squatting spoofs for those 4,000 domains. Your DNS. So if you need to tune your DNS, if you're going to do this project, and it's simple, there was not a lot of code there, anybody could do that, run a Kali box and run that. You want to make sure your DNS is absolutely as fast as it can be. Milliseconds mean things here. So if there's a program called DNS Benchmark. It's made by Steve Gibson of Gibson Resource Corporation. If you know the software SpinRite, he's the maker of SpinRite. He makes this free tool, and you can run that tool and find out what your fastest DNS server is going to be. I thought it would be Google. It wasn't. For me, it was Quad 9s. And then it wasn't even Google Next. There were some other servers that were faster. So this is important. Other details that matter in the DNS twist config. So again, as I said, I block all the puny domains on my network, so I don't need to look at those. I started doing that, and it would probably take me 4 times as long to go through my domains if I was doing puny domains, these homoglyphs. So that's the only one I don't do. So if you wanted to do a project and just do homoglyph, you'd probably find a lot that I'm not finding. Whoops, I think I went previous there. Okay, so the 4,000 domains usually produce 30 to 40,000 additional domains. So again, I've dumped everything from my firewall and got 600,000 domains. I've cleaned that up and got, what was it, 60,000? 61,000 domains. I've taken 4,000 of the 60,000 and said twist them, and that produced 30 to 40,000 domains. The next thing I want to do is say which one of these are already blocked. I'm not interested in looking at sites that are already blocked. So at that point in time, I take those 30,000, I upload them. Remember I told you they provided me access to do 100,000 domains quickly? So I take that 30,161, I upload it to the site, I download a CSV file that tells them, and then I deselect all the ones that are already blocked, which gets me 15,965 domains to look at. At this point, I need to review those domains. Are they spoof lookalikes? What are they? So I wrote this script, another very simple script. There's nothing there. Most of this is, well, not most of it is comments. So I have a wget script, webget, which goes out. That -U is faking my browser agent because I don't want to look headless. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. I want the connection to the website to think this is a real system, not me in my robot. So what's this one? Looks like, is it Mozilla? Apple Web. This might be Apple, iPhone, Safari. I don't remember. I'd have to go look at it. I got a timeout of 30 seconds. A wait retry is 0. Don't wait to retry. A try's 1. I don't even try to retry it. And then don't even bother looking at a certificate. I'm just interested in looking at the site. Why retries 1? because I'm going through 30 days of logs in 1 week. The next week, I'm doing 30 days of logs. So I have 3 weeks of overlap every time I do this. So that's why I don't care about it. I'll get it next time. If I didn't get it this time, I'll get it next time. So I don't care. Now, the important thing here is the grep. So it downloads the web page, and then it looks inside the web page for these keywords. Now, I have a lot more keywords than this. So I only gave you a portion of the keywords. But if it says, is for sale on huge domains, I'm like, all right, that's a parked domain that Joe says is a phishing domain, and it says write it into a log file, so I know I want it blocked. Simple. Then it checks the test file, and it writes it out to my phishing domains log.txt, and when that file is done, I've got a list of domains that I upload to my web filter company and have re-categorized. And to date, I've done that 800,000 times. All right, details that matter. I believe you should rotate your browser agent. I don't have any evidence of this yet. I have a sneaky suspicion. What I really need to do is slow down my process and have one browser agent do it all, and then have a different browser agent do it and see if my numbers don't match, and say, oh, when I do a different browser agent after this point of time, then that website is looking at browser agents and blocking me if it's the same browser agent, that type of thing. So if I were running this script on a single system, if you're going to do this as a project or with students, you might want to write in code that says, change the browser agent every time you go to a different website. What I do is I hard code the browser agent in, because I have 4 systems that do this constantly, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like, they're all different browser agents. The wget retries one time. Like I said, I'm overlapping. If you weren't overlapping, you might want to not do that. But if you're overlapping, you probably only need to do that one time. This is interesting. Cloud service IP versus residential IP versus business IP. So we have jump boxes, and what we have found, a jump box is a system that's not on your network that you can go to a malicious site and not have to worry about it. I have found that my jump boxes on my residential IP will see websites that the jump boxes in AWS won't see. The website is doing what I said earlier in the presentation, where it's looking for who's connecting, and if, like, what workstation is on AWS and connects up to a website? Like, that probably never happens. So they look at that and they say, nope, that's a bot, stop it. So it might be more valuable to run this research on a residential IP, which is what I'm doing, or on a business IP, if you could do it on a business IP. So I believe that. And I found that it matters. All right, more lessons learned. So I'm running this script probably 6 months ago, 6 months ago. Time flies when you're having fun. And all of a sudden, what I normally would get would be 1,000 domains, drops down to like 400. And you might get excited, yay, I'm reaching the end. I don't have to do this anymore, but that's not what happened. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, why am I getting all this back? So I just visit one of the sites in a browser and I'm like, oh, the bastards blocked me. They started, so my robot is getting a CAPTCHA. I'm like, all right, now I got to beat them, which I did. I win again. So the mistake they made is, when they go to that site, if I go previous here, you'll see when they redirect you, this redirection for this dicxe.com site, look at what the actual domain is. It's huge domains. So I can do an easy check. I can just say, hey, go visit that site and grep for huge domains. And if it's huge domains, then go ahead and block it. It's another one of my blocked sites. So now what I'm doing, at some point in time, I will incorporate this code in the other script, so I only have to run script. Right now, because I'm a guy that's like, it's simpler to just run 2 scripts. I just run 2 scripts at the same time on the same server and end up with 2 lists. And I cat those 2 lists, and that's what I upload. So that helped me out too. I was like, oh, back up to 1,000 websites. Then all you do is wash, rinse, and repeat. So the subdomains that have been recategorized, right, the process is over. So here you'll see I upload, this was a list of 860. You upload those and you get them back. Now, I want you to think about being the web filter company that has me as a client. Every day, I'm submitting thousands of domains. These guys know my name. Like, the most I've ever submitted to them was 1,500. I used to feel bad. I was like, because I would submit 100. And then I was like, I'd get I refine and I get 500. I'm like, I'll break it up and I'll submit 5 100s. And then I got sick of doing that. And I tried 500 once and they did it. And they did it really fast, like 5 minutes. I'm like, these guys know me. And then I was like, I wonder if I can do 1,000. And the other day I did like 1,500, but that's a little much. I did complain once. My queue, I watch my queue, and it's completed, analyzing, submitted, analyzing. And when it gets to the second page, I'm like, what happened? They didn't get my work done. And I complained once, and they came back and they're like, you gave us like 2,000 things to do. We can't do it that fast. I'm like, okay, I get it. So anyway, that's all you got to do. Wash, rinse, and repeat. So if you were to do this, how would you validate? Because you should validate before you submit to your web filter company. Like, you want to know that your script worked correctly. So one of the things I do is I have a browser and it's got this multiple URLs, open multiple URLs, and I'll grab like spots of 10 domains that's in my list of 500 or 800 that I'm submitting, and I'll stick it in there and I'll go to them. I'm like, yep, phishing domain, phishing domain, phishing domain, phishing domain. Yep, good, I'm good. And I'll spot check every once in a while to make sure I'm not making somebody do work that they shouldn't have to do. I'm thinking about them. If that looks like too much work for you, here's a script you can use. So I'm using Google Chrome in headless mode, and I basically can give it the list of all the domains that I'm about to submit, and it will go out and it'll get me screenshots. Now, this isn't all the code. My particular one will zip up all the screenshots, and then I can just stick them in Windows and open it up and look at it and go, yep, phishing. Don't even have to view them. Don't have to wait for them to render. So it's that's a much faster way for you to validate this if you want to do this research. So has anybody else done this research? Sure. There was a group of these couple of guys, or a gal and a guy, I don't know, did some research like this, and they said this would be really cool if somebody would do some type of process, but they didn't receive support from any organization, so they didn't end up doing anything. So it was a very good paper, though. It was a good paper to read. And that's what I have for you. I hope somebody will take me up on adding that to your process. It will make. By the way, I have not, since I began this process, had anyone submit one of those phishing sites to me to recategorize an individual phishing site. So I know that this is working. I have not one call in 9 months for having to recategorize a phishing site, because I'm getting ahead of it. Any questions? Did I make it? I did. Just about on time. Yes, sir. Okay. So the question was, or the statement was that you use Defender, and sometimes Defender gives you a potentially malicious URL alert. And when you review that URL, do you review those? Are they like these? Are they phishing slash? What kind of content does it look like? But when you visit the actual phishing site, is there something on all of them when you get these alerts that's the same? Is there some kind of code that you could use on the website to get ahead of it? No. Yeah, well, then it would be very hard to do this process on. You might have to stick with doing a one-off. If you could if you can get 10 of those and say, all right, out of these 10, 7 all do X, then you could you could run this process on your domains, and you could add to the grep, look for this, and if that's found, then add that site to the phishing site. So, yeah. Yes, sir. All right, so I wouldn't have to go into the HTML. So there were two things here. So the question was, are there times when the image you captured is not sufficient to identify it as a phishing site? So yes, if the site loads very slowly, when Chrome does its image capture, I'll capture a blank image or a partial image. So when I'm capturing images, then yes, I might have to go do a review of the site. And at that point, I would go to the jump box and put in the site and let it render. From the standpoint of the script running to see if my script identifies it as a phishing site, there are times, in fact, I have one right now. I logged in before I came here, and I have one that's stuck. And I still have to identify, because it happens so infrequently that it just continually loads this page. I have to identify why that is. It's so infrequently that I haven't taken the time. So it does happen, and what I typically do is a Control-C, stop the script, grab all the data that I've captured, submit it, delete all the data, and start the script. Delete that one domain and start the script over. So, great question. Yes, ma'am. So the question was, when I had the slide about a cloud service IP versus a residential IP versus a business IP. So what I'm talking about there is where you're running the scripts from. So if you're running your DNS twist script from an IP that is a cloud IP, I find that you tend to get less appropriate connection. They will block those because the website is believing that a human on a computer is connecting to their site, and they may block all AWS IPs. So when you run that process, you're going to get less data back. My research shows that running it on a residential IP is good, that potentially running it on a business IP, I haven't tested that, but I would think that would be the same too. It might even be better. Running it on a business IP or running your DNS twist script from a business or residential IP is a better way to go. Very good. Thank you. Yes, sir. Well, after this is published, I worried about that. I have to tell you. So the question was, how soon are they going to start looking at the text that you just published, which is why I didn't publish it all, and blocking me from doing this process. And I can't say that I was not concerned about that. It is recorded. The data's out there. They might start looking at what process I'm doing, but I believe I'll win. I believe that if they change something, I'll just say, okay, let's play that game. Because I'm tenacious, and I just can't stop. They don't ever stop. I got to do more. So, great question. Any additional questions? Well, that would be an actual phishing site, and it would be categorized. So that's a great question. If I were to find that right now, and my current script would have that site categorized as PUP, or potentially unwanted program. If I were to happen to do a review and find it for that particular site, I would have it properly recategorized as phishing. So when I find those will be phishing. Wait a minute. I don't think I'm understanding your question.
I assume someone like you or you are submitting it up for them to classify as phishing. So the pages that I'm using my simulations.
Oh, no. Okay, now I know what you're talking about. So, yeah, all right. So if that page said simulation, which it should, yours won't. Yours won't. All right, so here's the question. What he's saying is he's doing phishing exercises, and he's sending out links, and those links are to simulated phishing sites. Except the simulated phishing site, nobody can tell whether that's a simulated phishing site or a real phishing site because it's supposed to look real to the person who's gone to that phishing site. What will I do? I'll categorize it as phishing, and this poor guy's got to go in and recategorize it as a simulator. They're like, we are fighting each other. That's absolutely true. Yep. Now, what I would suggest is, if you're using Fortinet firewalls, you can have that site recategorized in your firewall and do a web rating override. So no matter what it's categorized as, it could be you could make a web rating override for simulations, and then you would never have to have it recategorized. Because it's not just me doing that. Anybody who goes to that site would recategorize it. Yes, sir? I don't know most firewalls. I'm fairly certain Palo Alto has it. Yeah, okay. Those are the two I know. Okay. Firepower. Okay, there you go. So the statement is that web rating override that you can do in Fortinets or Palo Altos, is that in other firewalls, and it is in those other firewalls. Any additional questions? Very good. Enjoy SecretCon.